Do you know what would make your marriage feel so much easier? What if your husband was just a little more like a woman? More expressive, more emotionally connected, more willing to sit with you in your feelings instead of trying to fix them? And what if your wife was just a little bit more like a man? Less emotional, more logical, less reactive about things that don't seem like a big deal. If you're honest, there's a part of you that actually believes that everything would just flow better if they could meet you there. If they could just think like you, feel like you, respond like you. And that belief feels so reasonable until you realize it's the very thing creating the problem. Most men won't say this directly, but it shows up in very subtle ways. When she gets emotional, he feels overwhelmed or confused. When she brings up something he doesn't think is a big deal, he minimizes it or tries to move past it. When she wants to talk something through, he tries to solve it quickly so it can be over. Underneath all of that is a quiet belief. This would just be so much easier if she just thought about things the way that I do. More logical, more contained, less reactive, and less emotional weight behind everything. In his mind, he's not trying to invalidate her. He's trying to create stability, clarity, and efficiency. But what he doesn't realize is that in doing so, he's asking her to suppress the very part of herself that makes her who she is. On the other side, women experience their own frustration. He doesn't open up the way that she wants. He doesn't express emotions with the same depth. When she shares something vulnerable, he jumps to solutions instead of simply listening. When she's craving connection, he gives her strategy. And underneath that is her own quiet belief. This would just feel better if he could show up emotionally the way that I do. More expressive, more connected, more attuned, more willing to sit in the moment instead of trying to move past it. In her mind, she's not trying to change him. She's trying to deepen the relationship. But what she doesn't realize is that she's asking him to operate outside of his natural wiring. Here's the deeper truth. Both people are trying to solve the same problem. They want to feel understood. They want to feel connected. They want to feel safe in the relationship. But instead of learning how to understand each other, they try to make the other person more like themselves. He tries to reduce her emotional world so it feels manageable. She tries to expand his emotional world so it feels connected. And in doing so, both people end up feeling unseen. He feels like nothing he does is good enough emotionally. She feels like nothing she feels is valid practically, and the gap between them grows. The mistake is believing that harmony comes from sameness. It doesn't. Masculine and feminine are not designed to be identical. They're designed to be complementary. The masculine tends to orient towards structure, direction, logic, and problem solving. The feminine tends to orient towards emotion, connection, intuition, and experience. These are not flaws to fix. They're differences that create balance when they're understood correctly. The problem is not that one is right and the other is wrong. The problem is that both are trying to override the other instead of learning how to work together. This tension cuts deeper than behavior. It hits self-identity. You see, when a man feels like he's being asked to be more emotional, it can land as, I'm not enough as I am. And when a woman feels like she's being told she's too emotional, it lands as, there's something wrong with me. So now it's no longer about communication styles, it's about self-worth. He withdraws or becomes defensive, she becomes more expressive or more critical. And both reactions reinforce the exact dynamic that both people are really trying to get out of. When a woman is expressing emotion, she's not always looking for a solution. She's looking for presence. She's looking for someone to sit with her in her experience without trying to change it. And to a man, this can feel inefficient or completely unnecessary. If there's a problem, solve it. If there's a pain, fix it. But to her, the connection itself is the resolution. Feeling heard is what allows the emotion to move. And when he skips that step and goes straight to fixing, she doesn't feel helped. She feels completely unseen. When a man moves into problem solving, he's not avoiding connection. He's expressing care in the way that feels natural to him. Providing solutions, creating stability, and reducing chaos is how he shows up. And when he doesn't match her emotional expression, it doesn't always mean he's disconnected. It often means he's engaging from just a different lens. So when she pushes him to emote in a way that doesn't feel authentic, he can feel pressured or inadequate or like he's failing at something that he doesn't even fully understand. The breakdown isn't the differences themselves. It's the meaning that each person assigns to those differences. She interprets his logic as lack of care. He interprets her emotion as lack of control. She thinks if he loved me, he would meet me emotionally. And he thinks if she trusted me, she wouldn't get so emotional. Both are reacting to interpretations, not intentions. And those interpretations create distance where there could be understanding. Everything begins to shift when both people Stop trying to change the other and start trying to understand them. When a man learns to slow down and be present with emotion, not to fix it, but just to witness it, something opens. When a woman learns to recognize his problem solving not as dismissal, but as care, something softens. He doesn't have to become her, she doesn't have to become him. Both expand slightly toward each other. He becomes more present, she becomes more grounded. And in that space, connection starts to grow in a completely new way. Masculine and feminine are not in competition. They're part of the exact same system. One brings direction, the other brings depth. One brings clarity, the other brings connection. And when they're seen as opposing forces, relationships feel like a constant negotiation. But when they're understood as complementary, something changes. The goal is not to eliminate the differences, it's to integrate them, to allow each person to bring their strengths without forcing the other to abandon theirs. The shift is simple, not necessarily easy. Instead of asking, why can't they be more like me? The question becomes, what are they actually trying to give me right now? Even if it looks different than how I would give it. That question creates space. It interrupts the pattern. It moves you out of judgment and into curiosity. And curiosity is what allows understanding to grow. You don't build a strong relationship by becoming the same. You build it by learning how to work with your differences, by seeing them not as threats, but assets, by recognizing that what frustrates you about the other person is often the exact thing that balances you when it's understood correctly. When men stop trying to reduce emotion and women stop trying to force emotion, something new becomes possible. Not sameness, not perfection, but alignment. Thanks for watching this video today. If you get value from my content, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I don't want you to miss future conversations about awareness and emotional freedom and enlightenment. And if you really want to go deeper into the work, head over to my website at keithcrossley.com. I've got additional teachings and resources and coaching options, all designed to help you attain the highest levels of mental and emotional freedom. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.